This is my home away from home, and those guys let me do my show here, which has been going great. Can't thank you all enough for spending your time and commenting and liking and sharing. Tonight, my guest is Tom Smith from the Acacia Strain. I am extremely excited to talk to him. I have a couple friends that submitted questions. Looks like he's ready to join, so I'm going to shut the fuck up and we're just going to get the episode started. So let's get him on the screen, everybody. And if you have questions, use the question mark box at the bottom of the screen. I will eventually get to those questions, maybe at about the half-hour mark. I can't necessarily do the comments and go through the comments. I will do my best, but we will look at the question mark box and go through a few things. So without further ado, I'm going to get Tom Smith from the Acacia Strain. Let's go. That's what you hear is Beast in the background from the Acacia Strain. Let's see if we can get him on screen now. Hello, how are you?
Hello, what's going on?
Nothing much, man. Thanks for making time to chat with me this evening.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me, man.
Hell yeah, man. I also wanted to send you some hellos from some mutual friends. I actually just spoke with Dan from Incendiary from Long Island, where I'm from, and he mentioned
Oh,
that you are
sick.
one of his favorite bands and gave me a list of things he wanted me to talk to you about.
Awesome. I
So
love
how
Dan.
have you
He is
been?
one of my favorite people.
Yeah, he loves you guys. I know all the Incendiary guys, and they're always talking about how much Dan loves the Acacia Strain. So I said I got to call this guy before we start today.
Yeah, it blew my mind when I found out because Incendiary to me is like the greatest hardcore band ever, and I was just like, wow, all right, he a member of Incendiary likes us. That's tight.
Oh hell yeah, yeah man. He was super bummed that he was I think he had a trip to go on, so he missed your Saint Vitus show, which I want to talk about. Brendan singing on a track and playing at Saint Vitus, but first and foremost, thank you for making time. Um, I wanted to find out how you've been managing to get through this past few months. It's been a little difficult.
Yeah, I mean I've just basically been I'll try to flip this around. This is all I have been doing is just sitting in front of my gear and writing music and nothing like the Acacia Strain. I've been writing almost only pop music the past
That's
couple
so
months,
funny.
but yeah, but that's I've just been trying to take all the time I can to be useful, and not just sit around and play Animal Crossing like I was the first month of quarantine. But yeah, that and I started up a new podcast during quarantine. So I've just been trying to keep as busy as I can with either like writing commissions or podcasting and just hanging out and having fun.
Fuck yeah, man! I actually had some questions about the podcast. I tried to go in some chronological order, and I wanted to let you know that while some people always say don't tell us your life story, that would not apply. We want to know your life story. We have an hour to get through it. We'll do our best to get to your life story.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure.
And I'll just remind everybody, if you have questions for Tom, I will get to them at some point. But if you could use the question mark box on the bottom of the screen, it's a little bit easier and more organized. And I see one comment that I'll address from Alex Hilly. When is the Acacia Strain coming back to Vitus? They were supposed to come back in August, and
Yeah.
who knows? So there you
What
go.
we'll be back at Vitus whenever everybody decides to wear a mask.
There you
and
go.
and
Thank you.
for people to stop playing secret shows because that's a new thing I've been finding out about and it angered me to no end. But yeah, that's when we'll be back at Vitus.
Man, and before I move on, you mentioned Animal Crossing. I actually had no idea what that was. I'm so out of the gaming world. And
Yeah.
the bass player from Deftones, Sergio, mentioned I work at Revolver, and he was trying to pitch us on a web series about musicians that play Animal Crossing. And he actually plays Animal Crossing every night on Twitch, and fans seem to watch this. So you're a big Animal Crossing guy?
I love Animal Crossing so much. I am like not a gamer at all, and the only reason I have my I consider myself a big gamer because my fiance has a Switch and I have a Switch Lite. Like that was like the most gamer that I've ever been in my life. But I'd never played Animal Crossing until this newest one came out, and I was just like, all right, this game is so relaxing and fun, and there's nothing for me to be upset about during. Like, it was the perfect escape from actual life, you know? So that's why I dig Animal Crossing. But that idea of having like all musicians talking about Animal Crossing and playing would be amazing. Like the band Left Behind, they're good friends with us. They put out a video. We have a couple characters on them, so it's definitely a cool thing for band guys.
Wow. Okay. So then I guess he has a good idea, and we should look into this more. And I'll try to reference this episode so I can go back and take some notes on who's doing this.
Yeah.
So you guys historically have been touring. You know, you tour a lot.
Mhm.
What's it like transitioning from that to where where we've ended up?
It's it's difficult, but at the same time, very fulfilling at the same time. At least for me, I'm somebody who like I my brain doesn't only function in metal. My brain doesn't only function in the Acacia strain. Like I have been kind of needing an escape from the touring cycle to do a lot of projects that I've been wanting to do. So while it's like killing me to not be on tour and not more than anything not know when I'll be on tour, it's also been like a really sick time to be like, cool, I can get my podcast going. I'm like relearning music theory. I'm started teaching guitar lessons during this time. Like I've been able to do so much, and for me personally, this has been just like a big soul searching time period and like learning about myself. But it's it's really frustrating to not know when we'll be on tour next, but also very positive in the sense that like I get to explore more about myself as a creator.
Absolutely, and I like what you mentioned about what you have going on around you and what you're doing, because certainly it is a time that you can kind of not only reflect, maybe personally, emotionally, whatever things we all have going on and work out while you're in isolation. But most people in bands don't only listen to the type of music they play. So you're writing pop music and trying different things. That's fun as an artist, I'm sure, to do and
Yeah, and
explore.
I ultimately would love to break out into that world in some way. So it's just been like, okay, I've got no excuse to not start being good about that, you know?
Um, Seems like some of the fans love your music so much that they're commenting. They just want me to play Acacia Strain again. They instead of I'm sure
Yeah.
that's flattering. So like you mentioned I was going to ask about the podcast. You brought it up a few times. Why don't you let's get a plug. It's Tom Smith from the Acacia Strain. If you're just tuning in right now. And if you missed the first portion of the interview, occasionally I'll remind everybody you'll be able to watch this on my YouTube channel and on the IGTV later on St. Vitus. But so talk about the podcast. What is it? Where can they check it out? Let's give it a plug.
It is on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. It's called Riff Filled Land. And it is basically me talking to it's starting off with me basically just talking to all my friends in the music industry, just because that's the low hanging fruit and easy to get them as guests. But it's pretty like long format. Like every episode's about 2 hours long, and we go very in depth about just different songwriting approaches, songwriting like techniques, like what inspires different artists to write songs specifically. Like not just I while I love a lot of interview stuff and podcasts that is all about the current time with artists, I really like to get involved with the upbringing and getting into songwriting. And it's basically the podcast that if I was 15, that's what I would listen to try to learn to be a better songwriter, you know? And
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, and I've had a couple people reach out saying that even just the first few episodes have helped give them some new like perspective and approaches. So yeah, it's mainly focused around songwriting and just kind of like work ethic for being in this industry.
That's awesome, man. I'm actually interested in checking it out based on that description. I actually just heard about it before I got on here. I play in a band. I've been in a bunch of bands, but my main band, Spotlights,
Hmm.
you know, I, I like talking about songwriting with people because it's so fascinating how people approach it. Let me ask you, since you're doing a podcast about it, where
Hmm.
you focus a lot on that, do you kind of adhere to the you know, like that, like some people like really stick to the template of like the pop structure. So it's like it's either going to be a verse, verse, chorus, bridge, chorus,
Hmm.
or maybe you throw in an intro. Maybe a whatchamacallit, a pre-chorus, or do you kind of go with the flow? What's your kind of opinion on all that?
It For a long time, it was very much just a free-for-all for me, and I can genuinely say that the best music I've written in my life was by adhering to like the pop structure. And every song that I wrote for the Acacia Strain in the past few years has generally been really simple structures. I'm a big fan of um, complex parts, simple structures. Like, and that doesn't by no means is the Acacia Strain a tech band, but like I would rather have a riff that feels filled out and like it hits certain points for me, and then just know that I can lay it out in a really simple way and it just feels seamless and flows that way for me. So I personally am a firm believer in like the pop approach to things, especially when it's in a music that's not really pop related or like a more
Dude,
abrasive
yeah.
style music.
I'm not even blowing smoke up your ass. I'm actually going off. I'm totally going off track right now and not
Hmm.
even following my questions because what you just said is something that I've been trying to explain
Yeah.
to musicians for the past 10 years, and it's been so hard to get people to understand that because I think and I hope this isn't boring for people watching, but you know what? You can start your own show if this is boring. You don't have to watch. But there's a how would I say this? People that like complicated music and crazy parts
Hmm.
often feel like the songs have to be nuts all the time, and there are
Yeah.
bands that can pull it off, you know. But the idea of what you just said, I'm going to use a very strange reference that people may kind of scratch their heads at, but
Hmm.
I always felt that if you listen to some Queens of the Stone Age songs on
Hmm.
certain albums,
Yeah.
um, they are very weird. They write some strange parts. I don't know that it's necessarily an odd time signatures, but they follow the pop structure, and I love that approach. So I'm glad that you said that, so that any songwriters or people out there, I mean, you can marry the two things and
Yeah.
make music. This structure, I think, is easier to digest when it's like, oh, he's back on that part again. Otherwise,
The
it's fucking self-indulgent.
Yeah, I really I've kind of always felt that way, but I was always afraid to really dive into that simple structure wise because like my favorite bands are like Mastodon, Converge,
Oh
Slayer, like
yeah,
they bands that don't adhere to really many rules, but it wasn't until the I still can't pronounce the name of the record, but the record from Cattle Decapitation in 2015, that was the record that really hit me like these are pop songs, but it's the most chaotic death metal I've ever heard.
exactly.
And that's when I was like, this is why this works, because you have to have something gluing the song together to make it digestible.
Isn't it weird that some people actually don't realize that or think about it? You know, it
Yeah.
doesn't make it doesn't make them bad or whatever. I mean, we're talking about songwriting here, but it's so interesting. I like mentioning that to people even when you're talking about hardcore or
Hmm.
any kind of subgenre of metal. It's like there's a reason why that works, and if you
Yeah.
put that on and put a Beatles song on, you're gonna notice that there's a structure there. You know what I
Just
mean?
just about every single one of my favorite songs in my whole life, no matter what band it is a simple structure. Like
Yeah.
whether it's Cattle Decap, Pantera,
Right.
Hatebreed, like
That's
any Incendiary. Some of their songs are like super simple structures. Like I can't even. The list could go on forever. It's. I feel like there's always something that's got to make it digestible. And like to contrast it, there's bands like Between the Buried and Me that I love that are. It's like a 30-minute long song where not one single part repeats. I love that, but there is more that I'm not I won't remember all of that, the way that I will remember something that has repetition and a hook. And that's like
right.
what really draws me to that structure.
I would cheers you or high five you on those sentiments if I could. And when you come back to St. Vitus, I will. I wish I knew you a long time ago when I was looking for band members. But
Yeah, I used to live in New Jersey too, so it would have worked.
there you go, man. Well, I guess I'll go back on script here so that I follow some structure here. Speaking of structure, let me get back to the structure. Um,
uh,
so, well, actually, let's start with how did you enjoy playing St. Vitus?
Dude, there is something magic about that place. The first time I ever played there, I filled in with a band from Staten Island that has since disbanded. This band called I Disappear, and I, as much as they were my friends, the whole reason I was like, yeah, I want this gig is because I just wanted to play Vitus because I didn't know when we would ever
Wow.
play it, and I was just like, I need to play St. Vitus. So that was just cool. Like we literally played to 15 people, and I was like, this rules. But then getting to play there with Acacia Strain, I was just like, this is I love that venue so much. It exudes everything pure about metal to me. And the coolest thing was showing up there. Like I said, I'm from Jersey, so I ended up riding from Jersey with my best friend to Brooklyn that day for that show, and I showed up a little bit later than the rest of the band. But getting there, and I was like, all right, I guess we got to load in. And I walked in, and there was a matinee going on with another sick like doom band. I was like, what the fuck? This is the coolest thing. Like, this is why this venue is important. Like, it just, I can't say enough good things about Vitus, and just the way that it's so open to every style of music, but there's a true like core and passion behind that venue.
Yeah. I think it's it's for dark music. I call everything dark now because even at Revolver, like the genre line, I'm gonna be 40 this year. I
Uh-huh.
only mention that because like the genre lines seems to be more blurred now, which I like actually. It's like the way things at Revolver have kind of turned out is like we could be talking about Chelsea Wolfe in the same issue that we're talking about Ghost Main or Acacia Strain.
Yeah.
And by the way, shout out to Rise Records, to
Hmm.
Lisa, shout out to Sean Haydorn at Rise, and shout out to Amy Cioretto at Adam Splitter PR. All great people. We do a lot of good work with that Revolver. But and I think that St. Vitus is very much in line with that. It's like it's outcasts. It's music.
Yeah.
It's a place for outcasts and misfits and alternative culture, I guess.
Yeah. And I think the biggest thing that made me love it so much was that with the Acacia Strain, we have this weird balance of fan bases where like people who are like really true to their core with metal, like sometimes they really hate us and sometimes they really like us. So I honestly playing there with the Acacia Train, I was like, oh God, or like, is the people who like run this venue going to be really bummed that we're here? And then the front of house guy, every bartender, every staff worker was just the coolest and had nothing but awesome things to say to us. I was like, this solidifies it for me. This is the coolest place on the planet.
It's thank you on behalf of St. Vitus, by the way. And I actually I was really bummed that I didn't make it to that show. So if and when it does happen, I will absolutely be there.
Yeah.
And also I was going to say as to your point, which is interesting. Like there's a there's a lot of people from all walks of life that have nothing but nice things to say about Vitus, whether it's I'm sure you've heard the crazy stories like Nirvana, the surviving members of Nirvana after the Rock and Roll
Hmm.
Hall of Fame. Blink 182 showed up and played there, a couple months before the pandemic. And
Yeah.
I had an interesting conversation with somebody who felt the same way you did.
Hmm.
And I think it's this misconception because the culture of heavy music in Brooklyn can seem a bit snobby, but the owner Artie played in a band on Geffen who had they were called Instruction, and they toured with a lot of new metal bands back in the day. He's probably closer to 50, but Linkin Park, Papa Roach, Korn,
Hmm.
and Jacoby from Papa Roach at one point had mentioned that he wanted to go to St. Vitus. This is a guy that's wildly successful, and he
Yeah.
was afraid. He was afraid to
Yeah.
go. He apparently wanted to see a band called Dysrhythmia, which is funny.
Hmm.
And he was afraid to show up because he thought people would make fun of him. And the
Yeah.
owner of St. Vitus said if anyone made fun of the guy from Papa Roach, who's actually a really cool guy,
I've
by the
heard
way,
great things. Yeah.
they're all very cool guys. I'm just going to say that right now. I'm not
Yeah,
saying that I'm the biggest fan, but they're nice people. Yeah, we would kick anybody out if somebody made fun of that guy for walking in here, you know?
that's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's, to me, that's the more true mentality. It's like just letting, like accepting people, and the fact that they're there means they like something that you like, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. You got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
Um, let's talk about. So, are you from Boston, where the band is from, also?
No, I'm from New Jersey originally, and
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm also a fair bit younger than everybody else. I'm 27 right now, and Vincent is about 11 years older than me, so I am definitely
Oh,
not from the original lineup in any way. But I've had between now being in the band and producing some records with the band, I've got a pretty decent history with them.
I knew that about you not being around from the beginning. I feel extremely old now that you mentioned your age. But I'm going to go ahead and say congratulations because you have a lot. You're doing well, and you have a lot of time to even do better. So
Yeah, thank you. I
keep up the
appreciate
good
that.
work. Um,
Thank you, man.
well, I was going to ask you. Let's not talk about Boston. Let's talk about Jersey. What
Mhm.
are talk about how you got into aggressive music and underground music, and tell me
Uh-huh.
about the bands and venues that you came up checking out.
So I'm very fortunate that both my parents love heavy music, and I was kind of just I didn't really have a choice, you know? Like it was just destined for me to like metal. Like there's always a story that I like to tell where like my parents when my mom was like 8 months pregnant with me or something, my parents went to like an Ozzy show, and if you saw her, she's like this petite, like gorgeous woman who is super quiet, and you would never expect her to be like blasting Hatebreed and Cannibal Corpse in her car, but that's how she is, and that's how my dad is too. Like I just kind of had no choice but to love metal.
These are
So
your parents.
yeah, yeah, that's my mom and my
Did-
dad. Yeah, they love metal. They love death metal. They love hardcore. Like
Wow.
they're into aggressive stuff.
How
So
old are
kind
they?
of they're a bit younger. I think they either yeah they just turned 50 this past September, so they're almost 51 now. But yeah,
Wow.
yeah they've got their finger on the pulse for the most part. Nowadays there it takes me kind of introducing them to bands, but they definitely paved my way with heavy music. And as far as like kind of just venues and stuff, I mean, I didn't really start going to like smaller like underground shows until I was a bit older, like high school. So like a lot of VFWs around Jersey, like Berkeley Heights VFW. Trying to think of some other ones. It's been so long now at this point, just between touring and going to shows that I forget half the venue names. But the most important one for me definitely was Starland Ballroom.
Oh, that place is great.
Yeah, that and before, so in like 2000, what was it, 2012, that Hurricane Sandy hit and like really kind of destroyed the whole East Coast. Before they had to like shut down and rebuild a lot, they did not necessarily like small hardcore shows, but they had a lot of smaller bands there. So I would go see every metal band was going through there. Me and my dad had like befriended some of the security guards there even, and they would like my dad and I would go to shows and they would let me hang out on like the security platforms just so that I could see and not get crushed. And like that was our every other week monthly thing for 10 years and until I got old enough to start going to shows on my own. But yeah, so like as far as Jersey venues, Starland Ballroom is 100% like the most important one to me.
That is so fascinating that your father or both your parents, let me just say, like, your parents are basically the same age as the owners of the place. The
Yeah.
owners are going to kill me for saying that, but that is totally wild. And they're also just 10 years older than me, which is wild.
Yeah.
It's crazy, man. And they were your
Yeah.
show buddies.
Yeah, my mom didn't really go to too many shows, but my dad, like I mean, another quick little backstory, like my dad very early on in my life, he had a pretty bad problem with alcoholism, and when I was about 4 or 5, he got totally sober, has been completely sober since then, so it's been I think 22 years now. But
Congratulations.
yeah, amazing on him, but there's always that saying where you trade one addiction in for the other, and for the longest time, his addiction was shows. Like even before I was old enough to go, he was going to Birch Hill, Starland Ballroom, uh, Chrome, a bunch of other venues, like small venues just throughout New Jersey. And he was going to shows literally like 3 times a week. He would show up for even sometimes the last band of the night just so that he could
Wow.
kind of get that rush in him. And that led to him kind of getting into like photography as a hobby. And it ended up with our whole hallway in our house just tiled with photos that he had taken from shows. And they
Wow.
weren't like professional grade or anything. It was like a disposable camera, but it was like his thing. Like he would just go to shows and from the crowd take some pictures. And that literally I can attest, I can attribute my interest in playing guitar and ever wanting to play guitar with seeing a picture of Paul Crook, who used to play in Anthrax and Sebastian Bach's band, playing a See-Through Green Mockingbird. And I went, I want to play guitar. And then it turned out that Paul had like a side gig, just like for some extra money, playing in a cover band that literally gigged at a club around the corner from my house. And my dad found out about it, and he took me to meet Paul, and that was just kind of what spiraled into the whole thing. So yeah,
Wow.
my parents are at the very root of everything music for me, and now my dad's a guitar builder, and I play all of his guitars. So they're yeah, I'm very very close to my parents for sure.
I love that. I really do love that. I think that's fucking rad. If
Yeah.
we weren't on an episode, I'd have even more questions, but I realize that there's going to be a lot of ground to cover. And you know how it goes doing your podcast. We're
Yeah.
already in the 30-minute mark, and I'm like, damn it.
Yeah, I'm sorry
But
I'm very long-winded also.
no, like I said, this is your show. This is not mine. So we're here to
Okay.
talk to you. I just want to
All
make
right.
sure we get to all points of your life before
For
we get
sure.
kicked off. So okay, so did your father? This is really weird. I don't even want to panic anybody, but I just pretty sure I heard a gunshot outside. I don't know
I
if that
heard a
was
bang and I wasn't sure what that was either.
I'm hoping that it was just a firework, but we'll worry
Yeah.
about that. If there are sirens, then you know what happened. I don't know what just happened.
Yeah.
I'm in
Be
Bed-Stuy.
careful.
Yeah. So with that being said, the right. Uh, did you learn how to play guitar because of your father?
He never played guitar. He just always liked music, and I mean, definitely their interest in music was a part of it, but my interest in playing guitar was fully because of when I met Paul Crook. He was like the nicest dude on the planet to me. He was so humble and so good. Like I didn't even see him perform for like 2 years, but just his personality. Like my dad and him had become friends, which kind of meant that I was sort of his friend, even though I was some like weird little 9-year-old, you know.
Right.
But yeah, Paul was like the reason I picked up a guitar for sure.
Now, how did you go about? This is a question I want to give credit to Alex Haber from Alexander Haber from Heavy New York. Shout out to him. He does a great show. He loves Acacia Strain. Um, he,
Awesome.
um, he had a couple questions. I'm going to start with this one. How did you go about developing your guitar sound? What kind
Mhm.
of gear do you use? And who's your other inspirations?
So as far as developing my sound, I worked for I mean, I don't even know if this necessarily contributes to it. I worked for Will Putney for a few years as a producer engineer out of Graphic Nature Audio, and that really helped me hone in my guitar sound skills, like my tone skills. But I think my my goal with my own personal guitar sound was just to really emulate the records that made me want to be better, you know?
Mhm.
Um, and to this day, I still credit Chimera, their record. I think it's Resurrection. That record is my favorite guitar tone of all time, and I've pretty much always just kind of wanted to recreate that, which is basically just a 5150, which is pretty
Yeah.
easy, you know. Luckily, but yeah, as far as what I use nowadays, with when I'm working on a project that's like studio wise and making records, I try to use real amps as much as possible. But as far as touring and playing live, I'm big into like the new age stuff. Like I had an Axe 2 for about 7 years, and in the past 2 years, I've switched over to the Kemper, and the Kemper is just the greatest piece of equipment I've ever had in my entire life. It
Well,
has
yeah.
transformed the way that I think of touring and how guitars should sound on stage and in a band.
Awesome. Yeah, that will for the gearheads out there. That's probably something really valuable for everyone to know about because I know the Acacia Strain fans are very into the musicianship, the sound, and how you guys are able to sort of accomplish everything that we hear sonically. What was it like working? So Will Putney, as most people hopefully know by now, as you should, is a fantastic producer who's also in Fit for an Autopsy.
Hmm.
Worked with Incendiary, worked with Body Count, worked with Acacia Strain. The list goes on. In
Yeah.
fact, Ice-T called him the Dr. Dre of metal.
Yeah,
For,
funny enough, I don't actually know if I'm allowed to talk about this, but I'm going to. I'm not going to say what it was on, but there is a Body Count song that I got to play some guitar on. So that's my biggest claim
wow.
to fame that I won't say what song, I won't say how much of it, but there is a chunk of Body Count that has me playing guitar on it, and that is like the coolest thing on the planet to me.
Love it. We're big Body Count supporters at Revolver. So
Yeah.
that's great. What was it like working with Will and then transitioning to making a record with him?
I Working with him was awesome. After 4 years of doing it, I took myself out of the production game just because I had started interning under Will and Machine at age 20, and it became pretty much sit in a studio 24/7, 365 for the most part from 20 to 24, and I just got burnt on it. And there was so much that I wanted to do touring wise that I took myself out of it, but the amount of knowledge and the amount of just skills that I gained from being in that environment has changed everything about my workflow. Like it was amazing, and it's funny. The only record that I'm not a part of, as far as the writing and performing with the Acacia Strain and also the production, was with Will. So I had just left working for him, was a fill-in member of the Acacia Strain, and then while they were doing Grave Bloom, I was asked to join as the record was being made. But I was like, I'm not stepping on any toes. I'm just gonna let them do their thing. I'm the brand new guy. They're already in the middle of the record. But I mean, I've worked with him on projects for years straight, and it's always got its ups and downs, obviously, as anything does. But the amount of knowledge that I've gained from him and from the other guys at the studio, Randy LaBeouf and Steve Side and Matt Guglielmo, they're all dudes that I worked alongside, and it's just a wealth of knowledge from just talking to any of those guys.
Yeah, and it sounds like between that there's a common theme in your life where you're very lucky to kind of have discovered music in a very convenient way through family when people mostly would
Hmm.
struggle to get their family to accept this kind of stuff and doing what you do, but then to end up in a situation where you're with some serious players in
Hmm.
terms of producers, engineers, really schooling you and kind of helping you hone it in.
Yeah.
Very cool. That's inspirational for people watching out there. That if you kind of I'm assuming have a very good positive attitude about things, open-minded, go to the right
Yeah.
places, you could
Yeah.
end up learning a lot, and I think being humble probably, right?
Yeah,
Um,
and just to speak on that, because I have a lot of people who ask me how I kind of got my start with stuff, and I just want to make the blanket statement of for anybody out there who's trying to do, whether it's production, touring, writing, literally be annoying and shoot your shot every chance you get, because without being okay with looking like an idiot and getting a no, you won't know. Sometime that you might look like an idiot, and I've for sure tried to get gigs that I had no right to even text somebody about, but at least I knew. And the one of the times where I thought I was going to be laughed at and looked like an idiot, I got a gig playing bass for Structures, and I got to go on tour with them, and that's what started my touring experience. And if I hadn't asked them about that gig, I don't know if I ever would have gotten a gig touring with Fit for an Autopsy, which then led to me touring with the Acacia Strain. So
yep,
just for
yep.
anybody watching, just shoot your shot and be okay with looking like a fool sometimes, because you need to do that sometimes.
You're absolutely right. I couldn't agree with you more. And
Mm.
that's a good way to shout. There was a guy actually on comments trying to promote his metal comedy show. I don't know if you saw that. So,
I did see that come up, so good on you for shooting your shot.
yeah. And you know what? It worked because now we're talking about it.
Yeah, exactly. See, sometimes
Yeah.
it works.
Hey, if you want to check out a metal comedy show, go scroll up and try to find this guy.
There you go.
Oh, there he is. I think that's him. All right. Well, speaking on that, you're a pro because you're flowing into a lot of questions that I had. Talk about becoming a full-time member and how you came from being a touring member of the band, and I just want to get to the bottom of that, know the kind of the story there.
Yeah, so basically, I mean, I had worked on the Above Below 7-inch with the band. I worked on Comowich. I had worked on the Depression Sessions split, and it was Depression Sessions was I think in November of 2016, I believe, and 3 months after that, 4 months after that, I had left working for Will, like I said, just because I needed to kind of do something else. And the only person aside from my then girlfriend and my parents who I had told about it was Devin, our other guitar player. And I was just, it was like the day that I had gotten off the phone. Will was in Australia when I like kind of just had like a mental break, and I was like, I'm sorry, man, I have to get out of here. And the only person I talked to about it was Devin, which was kind of odd because we weren't super close at that time. Like we were friends, and like I would call us friends, but we weren't on like a deep personal level. And I was just kind of bullshitting with him, and I was like, hey man, like I just want to let you know, like I know you guys are going to be working on a new record soon, but I'm not going to be there. Like I can't devote all my time to a studio like I want to be playing and stuff like that. And that was 2 days after Richie had quit, and his response was just, oh, hey, Richie quit. You want to just play with us since you've recorded half of our shit? Oh, and I see Devin in the comments right now. Fuck you,
Yeah.
Devin.
Devin says the comments aren't going to show up when this is on YouTube, but we have Devin from saying we actually aren't that close.
That's bullshit because I talk to him every single day.
Hey,
yeah, but as far as getting into the band, I had texted Devin, and I guess my name had kind of come up kind of immediately. I know Devin was a big push for me. I know Kevin was a big push for me as well. I didn't really know Griffin at the time because he had just joined the band, and I mean, I just wasn't super frequently in contact with Vincent, but I know Devin and Kevin had a real big push for me from the very get-go. And when Devin texted me that, I was like, yeah, I'm absolutely, a fucking course I'll be in. And to try to quickly bring this up, because I think it's always funny, when Jack had left the band, that Devin had texted me and was like, your name came up for bass, but we know you got a really good thing going on with Will. And at that time I was like, I'm kind of thinking about leaving Will. And it turned out that my name was up to play bass for them, but I didn't get it because they thought that I was like super pumped on my gig with Will, and they went with Griffin. But it just so happened to work out that a year later it was me joining on guitar, and it was a tour and a half of filling in with them. And then in the middle of the second tour, they asked me to be a permanent member, and I've been with them ever since.
Congratulations, that's great, man. I mean, it's weird to say congratulations now, but it's a cool life transition, obviously. Just to kind of
it was very cool to be
yourself.
Yeah, it was very cool to be so young, getting to join a band that I had looked up to a lot, because I was only 23 when I got asked to play with them, and it was kind of mind-blowing to me.
Yeah, and you got it. Yeah, there you go too, because you're starting at a formative age. 23 years old, people are usually just kind of trying to figure out, like you said, the cold calling. Can I play this show? Can I do this? And then you throw it into something like that. How do you feel about playing stuff you've written versus this is another question. My next two questions, again, are from Alexander Haber from Heavy New York. How do you feel about playing stuff, from, stuff you've written versus the older stuff? And do you have any particular older favorites?
So there's like it's kind of funny because I love playing the older stuff so much, because it's like, I'm still a fan of the band first, like since Wormwood, it's funny, I actually didn't like the Acacia strain the first time I heard them, but then when Wormwood dropped, and Continent too, like Continent, I started being open to them, but Wormwood, I was like, they're one of my favorite bands now. So playing the old stuff is awesome because it's like I'm playing in the band that I like to listen to, So anything off Continent and Wormwood is always like, that's my favorite old stuff to play. But this past tour, the one that got cut short due to the pandemic, was the first time that we were playing stuff that I had written. And the second day of the tour, we played Amityville Music Hall in Long Island, and
Oh,
it was
shout out to Dan Valentino.
yeah, amazing venue. Love
Yeah,
everybody there.
he's the owner there.
Yeah. The second day of that tour was one day after the first EP of the Slow Decay series had been released. So 2 brand new songs. We were playing them. I had been used to playing new songs from Gravebloom, but I just hadn't written them. And I knew that playing new stuff was kind of tricky live and that it doesn't always go over well. And the second day of that tour, we played Feed a Pigeon, Breed a Rat, which is a song that I wrote. And every single person was chanting like the gang vocal part. And I was just standing there like, I wrote this song. Like, I didn't write these lyrics, but this is a song that I wrote. And it's a new song from an old band. And this many people are still fucking pumped on it. Coolest thing on the planet to me. It like validated a lot of things for myself, just getting to hear that.
Absolutely. That's what makes it worth it, right? That's what you do it for, is, you know, is the fact that it resonates with people. What a cool, like, it's cool to have that memory and remember that. Well, let's go here. What was it like making Gravebloom, which was your first record with the band?
So that was the one that I actually wasn't really involved with, because that was like right when I got the fill-in gig with them. But I was, I'm sorry. I was kind of like, I was just around it while they were like making it, and I saw that there was definitely a bit of a not a struggle, but a lot of like, you could tell that there was moving parts, like new members writing. Richie had just left when he was supposed to be a big contribution in the record. And the tour that we were on while they did the bulk of the writing was a pretty meh tour. Like, it should have been really cool, but the way that it was unveiled and the way that some of the contract work as far as the shows went was kind of a little too vague for both us and Dying Fetus on that tour. So we kind of got screwed a bit, as did every band on the tour, just with like age restrictions at shows that we had no clue about. So I think there's a reason that record sounds the way it does. And I think Gravebloom is an amazing record, but it's very clearly a sad record and an angry record. And that was a very transitional time for the band, just as people and as a band. And then in contrast to then being a part of the band with It Comes in Waves and with Slow Decay, I was just like, wow, like I can tell that this is a new band. Like, it's the same 5 of us as who was in the band during Gravebloom, but I could tell that we are all, just as people, so much different than we were 3 years ago during that record.
I have some questions about that too. That's interesting to know some of the background there. Before we get totally into like the stuff that's happening in more recent time, just to focus on the past a little bit, you mentioned Continent in 2015. You did a 10-year anniversary tour of that, playing that in full. Did that make it difficult to promote Gravebloom because you were busy doing that?
Yeah, Gravebloom kind of got, unfortunately, shot in the ass a little bit. We had Warped Tour in 2017, which the record was done for an entire year before it came out in reality, but we had some issues with the release of it, and it kept getting pushed back due to different art stuff or different like stuff with the label, vinyl distributors, just a lot of things that were kind of against it. And then with Warped Tour, you can't play really any new stuff because you have a 30-minute set, and then following Warped Tour, it was a whole year of Continent. So unfortunately, yeah, Gravebloom definitely, I don't think, got a fair shake at live stuff, but I will also say that record, I think, is one of the most solid Acacia Strain records, but there is so much more doom involved with it than like energy, that I think it is a better record on album than it is live. And that's just my opinion. I'm sure some of the other guys in the band might disagree with that, but I think the vibe of that record is very, very doomy, and it's got a lot of like emotions behind it that go over better as a record. So as much as it sucks that a lot of that doesn't get played live, I also don't know how well it would always go over.
Like Devin is saying, it's Nick Hallman's fault, is what it says.
That is our old manager, who I love him as a person, but there was some stuff that annoyed us a little bit. That's all I'll say.
I'll take a couple. I'll take a question from the audience in a second, and I'll read some comments. Mark
Mhm.
KCMO says it's some of the hardest shit out there, and Decay is absolute heat. Nicholas 91367, which we'll talk about. Michael Hudson, Decay is the return of that Acacia groove. Looks like we got a shout out from Brazil. We got Brazil in the house. And then let's take this one question from, I like this one. This is from a sheep on wolf skin. I got that right. Outside of music, what are some of your favorite hobbies?
Ooh, I love to play with my dog, who is right here.
Oh,
Going,
man.
yeah, play with my dog, hang out with my fiance, playing Animal Crossing. Yeah, Animal Crossing. And honestly, other than music, I don't have a ton of hobbies. I love movies, though. I am like a full-blown movie person. NTV, like I love movies. So I guess I would say my hobby is watching movies and then talking to my friends in very, very detailed conversations about movies. But really, I mean, it's just writing music and listening to music mostly.
That's this is inspiring some other questions that we could take. Connor Heathen, Goodfellas or The Godfather?
Funny enough, have not seen either of those. Those are on my list of I need to get on my shit and watch them.
Man,
I
those are movies you gotta. Pandemic, man.
I
Pandemic
did,
time.
so I will say, in my defense, I didn't get super, super into movies until the last 3 years, and my parents were not into movies really at all. So unless it was my dad and I watching horror movies, but as far as like the classic movies, I missed out on a lot of that. So I am going through all the classics right now at this age.
There you go. All right, we're running out of time, so I'm going to have to go back to my questions, guys. I love that you all have questions. I wish that you submitted them earlier. I didn't see any until now, so I apologize. But okay, so I got one more question. I got two more questions before we start getting into the Decay stuff.
Mhm.
I know you were not in the band early on. Maybe Devin can weigh in here. This is another observation from our good friend Dan from Incendiary.
Mhm.
Is it fair to say, well, this is a combo of something that I observed and something he mentioned. Is it fair to say Meshuggah was a big influence on the band earlier on? And then his is a two-part question. He was saying that he thinks that perhaps Neurosis has started to become a more recent influence, who I love. And by the way,
Yes.
okay, well, then every fucking band, almost
Mhm.
95% of every band that's ever been on this show, this is episode like 75 or some shit, has
Yeah.
mentioned Neurosis. So you're nodding your head.
Oh, so just to quickly mention, Meshuggah has always been and always will be a favorite band of the Acacia strain in general. And I think collectively Neurosis might be the band's favorite band, them and Typo Negative. And when
Wow.
when we did It Comes in Waves, I had a very heavy part of the writing on that, and my whole goal with it was to infuse the Acacia strain, Neurosis, Isis, and Mastodon
No
and
shit.
Suffocation. Those were like my five bands, and that was my whole goal. And the day it came out, one of my friends like tweeted a picture of the album artwork, just saying "New Acacia Strain is Neurosis worship," and I don't even think she's a fan of us. She's just like a buddy of mine, but she loves Neurosis. And when she tweeted that, I was like, that's all I wanted to get out of this was the art project and to make people feel what Neurosis makes me feel.
Neurosis is such an. Neurosis was on the show a couple weeks ago.
That's all. I
And
didn't know that. I have to check that out.
it's really interesting and really cool because one thing that stuck out to me was that their music seems to have a very wide range. And I won't spend too much time on this, but one thing that a lot of people don't realize that people might find strange, Neurosis started out as a punk band. Guess who they used to play with a lot? Green Day. They used to
Yeah,
play with Green Day and Rancid a lot.
yeah,
And I mean, I'm sure you know that. I'm not mansplaining to you, but
yeah.
so they have that. We had Sunny Day. We had the former drummer of Foo Fighters and Sunny Day Real Estate on the show.
Hmm.
and Sunny Day Real Estate have been credited as like inventing emo. That dude said that Sunny Day Real Estate was influenced by Neurosis
It's
heavily,
awesome.
and you're here telling me the same
Yeah,
thing.
I think
Um,
anybody who likes good underground music, whether they don't like Doom, needs to really take a dive into Neurosis because
yeah,
they should be the biggest band in the on the planet.
my band is heavily influenced by Neurosis, and you mentioned Mastodon. One thing I'll share with you, because I know you're a fan, before we
Mhm.
we have 9 minutes left, is that he had a Steve Von Till from Neurosis had a great answer for what the band seemed to kind of take inspiration from, and he just said we wanted to write songs that sounded like the earth, like
Yeah,
mountains, the sky, trees,
and they
volcanoes,
do.
literally just the earth, you
Yeah.
know. So we'll move on back to you. Um, let's talk about this before we run out of time. The recent collection is a thematic 7 inches that spell out decay. Can you please discuss the artwork and concept? It's certainly very unique.
So, as far as the artwork goes, I had found Kalen, I forget his last name, and I apologize for that, but Kalen, who had done our artwork, we were talking about the record and just kind of the idea, and I found him because I'm good friends with the guys in Lorna Shore, and he had done their album artwork, and I went, I sent it to everybody in the chat. I was like, this is insane. Like, we should maybe think about this guy, and everybody was on board with it. And then as far as the slow release of it, the release and the artwork kind of tie together because it's obviously like on the beginning, you start off very bright and colorful, and then towards the end, you're looking at a dead forest. And the release being planned out, that was kind of like a Griffin and Vincent thing where Griffin and all of us had kind of always talked about wanting to do like a series of 7 inches, just for fun. And we had, I think because we put It Comes in Waves out in such a weird way, we noticed that being weird can work for us. And Vincent and Griffin were like the real big driving forces between making that come to fruition. And that's mostly their vision, but I think the artwork and the way it's being put out was so crucial to the cohesion between like the whole overall atmosphere of the release. And it's just like we're slowly feeding you songs the way that this record is slowly coming out and you're slowly digesting it. And then there's the artwork that it just reflects that same kind of feeling.
And it's coming out as correct me if I'm wrong, it's coming out as a box set and on double LP. Is that correct?
I believe so. Yeah, on July 24th, and there'll also be 2 extra songs that haven't been released yet.
Oh, there you go for all the hardcore fans. So, Rise Records, you can
Yep.
pick that up from Rise Records. Obviously, if you're watching this, you're already hopefully a fan, or if you're just following St. Vitus, you can follow the Acacia strain, which Tom is using the account right now. So July 24th, Rise Records. Now, let's talk tune slow, play slow is a slogan you guys have. Where did that come from?
It started as Tune Low, Play Slow, and we changed it to Tune Low, Die Slow because Crowbar coined Tune Low, Play Slow, and we love Crowbar.
Oh,
And
they were one of my last guests.
yeah, we Crowbar is another collective favorite of the band, and yeah, so Tune Low, Play Slow, Tune Low, Die Slow. We just kind of needed to think of a way to make it more miserable.
In the home stretch, let's talk a little bit briefly about the guests that you've had on tracks. Who are some collabs that you want to shout out and mention for anyone that may not know, that so they can go kind of listen to those tracks that are obviously special with some people from other bands.
Yeah, we've got the song "Seeing God" has Aaron Hurd from Jesus Piece on it. Um,
Oh, he's also
the
in
loop,
Nothing. Yeah,
yeah. He's also in that band. Great band
great band.
too. Yeah. We have Jess Nix from Morality Rate. She's on the song "The Lucid Dream." Zach from Left Behind is on the song, and this is the whole title. It's a long title. "I breathed in the smoke deeply. It tasted like death, and I smiled." Uh, and then I think the last guest spot is Courtney Laponte. I think that's her last name. How to say it? From Spirit Box, and she used to sing in "I Wrestled a Bear" once. And She she's got more of just kind of like a feature than I would say a guest spot. I think a lot of people were upset that her part wasn't bigger, but it was kind of done intentionally where we just wanted to have an extra voice on it and just kind of add to the atmosphere of it rather than be like a guest spot. But what she did, she absolutely crushed it on that part.
I like that. I don't know if it's on purpose or what your opinion is on this, and we don't have to get into it too much. But like, I do like that you guys have people of color and females. I don't know if that was by design or if it was just like these are just our friends, but
Yeah,
that's certainly a really cool thing.
it definitely wasn't done on purpose. It's just that we wanted people that we respect as talents and as people, and it just so happens that a lot of the people that we respect happen to be women or people of color, and that you should celebrate everybody that you love and respect, no matter who they are.
Love it. I'm glad that we got to say something
Yeah,
about that because it's,
yeah,
you
I
don't want to
agree.
ignore it completely. It's a big deal.
Yeah,
Okay, we're in the 4-minute home stretch, and I don't know if you know how this works, but the timer, which you cannot see, will eventually
uh,
go off, and
oh,
it'll cut
okay.
us off. So we're gonna do this real as quick as we can. I don't want to rush you too much, but
No, you're
are
good.
there any are there any new bands out there or contemporary bands that you're digging that you feel deserve some recognition that you want to shout out?
Oh God, a million of them. Left Behind, Chamber, Judiciary, Creeping Death, uh,
Oh, we had Creeping
the
Death on this show.
yeah, Creeping Death, Morality Rate, Higher Power.
Good.
The let's just cap it at that because I want to keep moving and I don't want to forget anybody by stumbling around.
Okay, got 3 minutes on the clock, and I definitely want to be able to do a final shout out and goodbye. You've been a wonderful interview. Thank you for being easy to speak with and for
Yes,
being
thank you.
pro. Yeah, man. Um, so if you were stuck, which we've all been stuck in quarantine and isolation, if you only had 5 albums that you could have kept during this time, what would they
Hmm.
be and why?
Well, I've pretty much only listened to Crack the
A great
Sky.
album
Yeah,
by
one of my
Mastodon,
favorite
by the way.
ever. Yeah, and then Casey Musgraves is who I'm listening to. Other than that, but if I were to pick my like 5 metal records that I can only listen to during this, Crack the Sky, Through Silver and Blood, October Rust.
That's Typo
This
Negative and
isn't really a metal
Mastodon.
record. Yeah, this isn't really a metal record, but the band Church of the Cosmic Skull, they have a record called Is Satan Real? And it literally sounds like a cult. It's like really cool, like classic folk prog rock that sounds like you're in a cult. And then
You got one more, and the timer is
I
at
got one more.
1:25.
Uh, just go with another Mastodon record. We'll go with Leviathan.
Fuck yeah, I love Mastodon. Anybody, if you had questions for Tom, hit him up on his social. I'm sure he'll get back to you when he has time, or hit up the Acacia
Yes.
Train. Maybe they'll respond. I want to thank you for being a great guest, and I wish you a
Thank you,
lot
man.
of
I
luck.
appreciate you having me.
Absolutely, and definitely come to St. Vitus. Hopefully, I'll see you there, and we could cheers and say what's up in person and talk more about the things that we were discussing.
Yeah, definitely, man. I would love that.
Okay, man. Good luck to you, and stay safe out there.
Thank you, man. You be well.
Peace out. Take care.
See ya.
Thanks for tuning in. If you want to watch the whole episode in about 30 minutes, you should be able to watch the whole thing on St. Vitus IGTV. Look me up, Chris Enriquez, on YouTube. You can watch most of the episodes there, and you could go on YouTube and watch some of the other episodes at Revolver Magazine. They're split up. I'm at Chris Enriquez Drums. I'm from at Revolver Mag and the band at Spotlights Music. Thank you at St. Vitus Bar. Peace out. Stay safe, everybody. You guys are great.